Max had always been drawn to the night. There was something about the stillness, the way the world seemed to pause and hold its breath, that he found both calming and exhilarating. When he saw the job posting for an overnight stock clerk at the local Walmart, he felt it was a perfect fit. It was his first real job, and although the prospect of working from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. was daunting, he felt ready for the challenge. On his first night, Max arrived early. The vast, fluorescent-lit expanse of the store was eerily empty, the shelves standing like silent sentinels. He met his supervisor, a middle-aged man named Greg, who gave him a quick tour and brief rundown of his duties. "You'll be mostly working alone," Greg said, handing him a list of tasks. "Stocking shelves, organizing inventory, that sort of thing. If you need anything, I'll be in the back office." Max nodded, trying to mask his nervousness. As Greg walked away, Max took a deep breath and began his shift. The store was enormous, and the silence was almost oppressive. He wheeled a cart loaded with boxes down the aisles, methodically stocking shelves and ticking items off his list. The repetitive nature of the work was oddly soothing, and he soon fell into a rhythm. Around midnight, the atmosphere in the store began to change. It was subtle at first, a faint rustling noise here, a flicker of movement there. Max dismissed it as nerves or the hum of the building's air conditioning system. But as the night wore on, the unsettling feeling grew. He found himself glancing over his shoulder more frequently, convinced he was not alone. He moved to the electronics section, which was located at the far end of the store. The aisles here were darker, the overhead lights dimmed to save energy. As he stocked the shelves with video games and accessories, he heard a faint whispering sound. He paused, listening intently. The whispering grew louder, more distinct, but he couldn't make out any words. It seemed to be coming from the next aisle over. Max's heart pounded in his chest as he crept around the corner. The aisle was empty, but the whispering continued, now seeming to emanate from the walls themselves. He shook his head, trying to dispel the growing sense of unease. "It's just the building," he told himself. "Old pipes, maybe." He forced himself to return to his task, but the whispers persisted, a constant, unnerving background noise. He finished stocking the electronics section and moved on to the home goods department. Here, the aisles were even darker, and the sense of isolation was almost palpable. As he reached for a box on the top shelf, he felt a cold draft brush against the back of his neck. He spun around, but there was no one there. The air in the aisle seemed to grow colder, and the whispering intensified, now accompanied by faint, ghostly laughter. Max's hands trembled as he fumbled with the box, nearly dropping it. His rational mind struggled to find an explanation. Perhaps the store was haunted, he thought, a ridiculous notion that nonetheless seemed increasingly plausible. He hurried through the rest of his tasks, desperate to finish and escape the oppressive atmosphere. At around 3 a.m., he wheeled his cart into the toy section. The brightly colored shelves and cheerful displays did little to dispel the sense of dread that had settled over him. As he stocked the shelves with stuffed animals and action figures, he heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps behind him. He turned, expecting to see Greg, but the aisle was empty. The footsteps continued, a slow, deliberate pacing that seemed to echo through the entire store. Max felt a chill run down his spine. He grabbed a flashlight from his cart and shone it down the aisle, the beam cutting through the darkness. The footsteps stopped, but the whispering and laughter grew louder, filling his ears. Panic set in. Max abandoned his cart and ran towards the front of the store, his breath coming in short, ragged gasps. He reached the customer service desk and picked up the phone, intending to call Greg. But the line was dead, the silence on the other end more terrifying than the whispers. Max's mind raced. He needed to find Greg, to get out of the store. He bolted towards the back office, his footsteps echoing loudly in the empty aisles. As he neared the office, the whispering ceased, replaced by an eerie silence. He pushed open the door, expecting to find Greg sitting at his desk. But the office was empty, the chair overturned, papers scattered across the floor. A sense of dread washed over Max. Something was very wrong. He turned to leave, but the door slammed shut, trapping him inside. The temperature in the room plummeted, and the whispering resumed, now louder than ever. Max backed into a corner, his flashlight flickering as if struggling to stay alive. He tried to steady his breathing, to think rationally. He had to find a way out. He scanned the room, his eyes falling on a vent near the floor. It was a tight fit, but it might be his only chance. He dropped to his knees and pried the cover off, squeezing into the narrow duct. The metal was cold against his skin, and the whispering followed him, echoing through the ventilation system. He crawled through the ducts, his movements slow and deliberate. The whispering seemed to come from all directions, a cacophony of voices that made it hard to concentrate. After what felt like an eternity, he reached another vent. He kicked it open and tumbled out into a storage room. Max lay on the floor, gasping for breath. The whispering was fainter here, but it was still present, a constant reminder of the unseen presence that haunted the store. He pushed himself to his feet and looked around. The room was filled with boxes and crates, a maze of obstacles that he had to navigate to reach the door. As he made his way through the room, he heard the footsteps again, now louder and faster, as if someone, or something, was chasing him. He broke into a run, dodging between the stacks of boxes. He reached the door and flung it open, bursting out into the main store. The lights flickered, casting long, eerie shadows across the floor. Max sprinted towards the exit, the whispers and footsteps growing louder, more frantic. He reached the front doors and yanked on the handles, but they wouldn't budge. He was trapped. Desperation took hold. He looked around for something, anything that could help. His eyes fell on the emergency exit at the side of the store. He ran towards it, praying that the alarm would go off and summon help. He pushed on the door, and it swung open with a loud clang. The cold night air hit him like a slap in the face. He stumbled out into the parking lot, his breath visible in the frigid air. The whispers faded, replaced by the distant hum of traffic. Max leaned against the side of the building, his body trembling. He didn't stop running until he reached his car. He fumbled with his keys, his hands shaking uncontrollably. He finally managed to unlock the door and slid behind the wheel, locking the doors behind him. He sat there for a moment, his heart pounding, his mind racing. As he drove away, he glanced back at the store. The lights inside flickered, casting an eerie glow over the parking lot. He knew he would never return to that place. Whatever haunted those aisles, whatever whispered in the darkness, it was not something he ever wanted to face again. Max quit his job the next day. He didn't give a reason, and Greg didn't ask for one. He spent the next few weeks trying to forget, but the memories lingered, the whispers echoing in his mind. He knew he had escaped something terrifying, something that defied explanation. And he knew he would never be the same. The night had always held a certain allure for Max, but now it was tainted with fear. He no longer found comfort in the stillness, the quiet. Instead, he was haunted by the memories of that first night at Walmart, the whispers and footsteps that had chased him through the aisles. He had survived, but he would never forget the terror he had faced, alone in the darkness.